Hello everyone, welcome to the Red Men TV. It is the Deep Dive. I'm Chris Pajak. That legend over there is Josh Williams, and we are here to talk about Kerkez and Robertson and what that means for Kostas Tsimikas, whether you'd want to do it, whether you wouldn't want to do it. We're going to look at build-up as well, and potential signings at the left-back position as well. Before we get into it, we do two shows every single week. We'll be looking at the Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike links in the second show on Plus straight after this one, so get yourself over there. Use the VERT code that we've got going on for 50% off your first month if you sign up as a club captain at redmenplus.com. So Andy Robertson's linked to Atletico Madrid. I don't want him to go, Josh. I don't know about you.
No, to be honest, I don't really want him to go either. I think he is. I hate saying this because it shouldn't really be a reason to keep a player, but I think he's good to have around the place, basically, is what I'm getting at. Seems to be in the leadership group. Lots of experience, won 2 Premier League titles now with Liverpool, won the Champions League with Liverpool. And I think he can still do a solid job as well. So I think if you'd have asked me, like, ideal scenarios and that, I'd have probably said Kerkez comes in, plays the majority of the games, Robertson is the support act, sell Tsimikas. But you can't force the player to stay, and if he's got 1 year on his contract and you're not extending and he's 31, it makes sense to let him go. So I can see.
I would have him sit there and leave for free.
But even if he doesn't want to, after saving you for 8 years,
he's not the type of guy that would kick up a stink. I don't think if he decided to keep him. I think he'd still put his shift in because it's Andy Robertson and that's what he does.
So do I, but I just think like the service he's given you for 8 years. Surely there's got to be an element with this player of sound. Do you know what I mean? Like whatever, not necessarily whatever you want, but if he does wish to go and the opportunity's there, probably won't be there when he leaves for free. He can literally still go and win La Liga or even the Champions League with Atletico Madrid, as long as shot as that is. Whereas if it goes down to free, he could fully end up at like Celtic next summer. It's a bit of a different level. Do you know what I mean?
I take your point, but he wouldn't be signing a 1 year deal at Atletico Madrid.
What do you mean?
Well, if he just leaves for free after a year at us, he wouldn't be signing a 1 year deal at Atletico now.
No,
he'd be
true.
signing a multi-year deal, wouldn't he? So
true, but
he could still end up at a good club.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think they would go and sign someone else if they can't get him. So that opportunity in particular wouldn't be there. Trent has just moved to Madrid. They're mates, you know. So I think if I was Robbo, I would jump at this personally. You know, Kerkez has played 38 out of 38 in the Premier League last season. He's 21. Robbo's done his time at Liverpool. He's 31 now. He knows he's not going to be a starter next season, but he's got an opportunity to go and work for a brilliant manager, great club.
Not going to have to cross the halfway line.
Exactly.
Extend his career a little bit.
Yeah, and I also think this is it. I think he suits it. If you think of Robbo, Simeone, Atletico Madrid, I think there's an element of
there's a synergy there, isn't
there,
between the playing styles of what the manager wants, how he plays, and you know how they attack the game mentally as well as physically.
I think mentally, especially, there's a link between Liverpool and Atletico Madrid. I think like they wanted Jordan Henderson apparently. There's links now to Darwin Núñez. We like Alvarez. They want Robbo. There's a lot of, I think mentally, Simeone and Klopp, for example, are not worlds apart. Obviously, Slot now is a little bit different, but generally speaking, I think it'd be a really good move for Robbo. And I think Liverpool would be harsh to deny him of that. And generally speaking as well, we do need to move away from this idea of clapping everyone out the door for free.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like that was annoying me to a point that so. You know, start taking fees.
But this is nothing. This is a negligible fee for me. I think what you get of having him, convincing him to stay and having him around the squad is worth more than a transfer fee.
Yeah.
To be honest, because what are you looking at? 8, maybe?
But
5?
How could you convince him to stay though? Because the ultimate question is going to be, am I going to play?
Yeah, and I think
the answer is going to be no.
I don't know. Like, has Kerkez proved that he can play twice a week? You know, has he played in Europe this season? Has he played twice a week? Has he done all that? Has he was able to play 90 in every single one of those games? Are you convinced that Kerkez can play 60 out of 60? Because at 21 years old, a long-term asset, you don't want to run him into the ground at 21 years old, do you? You do want him to be able to learn from somebody. He's not the finished article. Having Robertson there to learn from, Robertson coming in, stepping in for big games as an example. I think if you get Robbo to 20 to 25 games, you get a better version of Andy Robertson than we saw last year, who, by the way, was part of the defence that was the second best in the league and won the Premier League. It's not like he's fallen off a cliff to the point where he can't start games of football anymore.
No, I agree with all of that, and that would be the ideal direction to go in. I think it's just, if you're actually getting into the brass tacks of it with Robertson, it's going to be, you will start in the Carabao Cup, you will start in the FA Cup, and you'll start in the Champions League games maybe when we're probably favourites to win. But the starter is Kerkez versus the opportunity of going to Madrid, living in a different country, picking up a new language, playing
which will be brand new to him.
Yeah. I wonder if he'll learn it quick. Playing in a different league, one that you actually have a shot at winning, and you have a decent shot in the Champions League.
I don't disagree with that as a point from Robertson's side of things. I absolutely.
If
I was Robbo, that's what I'd be pushing for. But that doesn't mean Liverpool need to do it for him. If the best thing for Liverpool is for him to stick around for another season, which I think it could be.
Yeah, I think Liverpool's best course of action is different, in my opinion, at the moment to Robertson's best course of action. So it just depends what prevails, really. But given the service he's put in, if he really wants to go, there's no way I'd hold on to him. I think he is in a position where he deserves a bit of, what's the word? There's a word that I can't think of. Grace. Yeah. So.
No, absolutely. I mean, the other side of this, of course, is what you do with Kostas Tsimikas, because Kostas Tsimikas probably came in, thought in a few years' time I could probably displace Andrew Robertson. Was never able to do that. He's now at an age where I think he's 28 now, isn't he, Kostas?
29.
29 now.
Yeah, 29.
Has he just turned or something?
I found this out last night. So he's 29 and 36 days.
Yeah. So 29 years old. A new young lad coming in who's going to be the number one, and you're telling Kostas that, he's the number two again, and is that going to be something that he wants to do? He's never really kicked up a stink about it. He came in to the club on those terms. I just wonder whether a new signing there might turn his head as such as well.
I don't know. I always felt the Tsimikas signing was a little bit weird at the time. I'm just going to get it up now because I'm curious to find out exactly. Oh no, to be fair, that's not too bad. Liverpool signing Tsimikas when he was 24. So I thought for some reason I thought he was older when he first came to Liverpool. But I think the weird thing now is Tsimikas and Robbo are both aging. They're both kind of post-peak, if you want. Whereas I would have thought if this plan was succession, when Robbo was 25 or whatever, Liverpool would have bought a left back who was maybe 20, 21, and then there's a succession thing. But with Tsimikas being 29, I honestly think he was always bought to be a backup, and the plan was never for him to be anything different. And he's still a backup now, and he's done a great job as a backup for 13 million, 11 million, whatever it was. So I agree with. I think the plan would have been to sell him this summer, to be honest, and let Robbo go on a free. Tsimikas has got 2 years left on his contract. He's 2 years younger. Premier League experience. You could probably get a better fee for him than Robbo. And this is why it's interesting from this show standpoint, because there's the potential prospect of losing a parent.
Yeah, I think that is. I think that is on the sort of cards, as it were. And that the thing that you mentioned there about the fee for Kostas is another reason why I thought Kostas would be the one out the door this summer. I think it looks like Liverpool are going to spend an ungodly amount of money this summer, doesn't it? I mean, we're about to drop 160 million on Verts, probably another 45 million on Kerkez. We've done 30 on Marmadashvili. We've done 35 or whatever it is on Frimpong. Getting money in is also a big priority this summer. We're doing it the other way round. We're buying first by the looks of it, but we are going to have to sell a lot of players. Now, Kostas on less money than Robertson. Robertson, big money for a backup is something that needs maybe to be considered as well. But we know that Slot is going to try and recoup a lot of money as well, because that's just the way that Liverpool work.
Yeah, I just wonder if if it's one that Liverpool would entertain with like so much upheaval, because you've already got a new right back, you've already got a new starting left back. You could get in Robertson, a replacement for a backup left back. There's the prospect of Konate as well. So you do need to sell, you do need to raise funds. But Liverpool, I think FSG in particular, have always kind of had a bit of a nosebleed at the thought of too much upheaval. That's why there's so many internal replacements in Liverpool, and that's why, you know, there's such contingency plans put in place. It's so that you don't have to go through, quote, transition seasons. So, yeah, I'm really interested to see, because I think Tsimikas was absolutely for sale this summer. I'm not sure Liverpool knew about this Robertson thing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But in I think they're both technically for sale. That's the interesting thing with it.
So, before we move on to who Liverpool could potentially look to sort of sign and stuff, one thing I wanted to discuss with you, we did this a couple of weeks ago on one of the Plus shows when we looked at Vert, we looked at Ekatike, we looked at Kerkez, we looked at Frimpong. One thing I want to discuss is any potential change in build-up. If Kerkez is playing left back and Frimpong is playing right back, that you could potentially foresee. But why don't I tell you what? I've put you on the spot there massively. Why don't you tell us what the build-up looks like now, and I'll give you an idea what I think might happen.
No, I think I know what you mean. But I think the player that's in my head influencing build-up potentially next season is Frimpong more than Kerkez, because I view Kerkez as a little bit of a clone for Robertson, albeit one who, 5 years ago, not so much now. Right now, at least, Liverpool build like that, with it's more of a 2 at the back and then a 4. Sometimes it's a 4 at the back and a 2, but whatever. Four defenders and a double pivot is generally how Liverpool do it. But I think the problem I've got with that, the problem I've had with that is Frimpong is a player who you exclusively want ahead of the ball and in the final third and things like that. So there's kind of a bit of scope to make that happen with your structure. So, for example, towards the back end of the season, we touched on this recently. We've seen Gravenberch dropping deeper, which would allow a back 3 and then the full-backs to advance. We saw bits of what did we see? We saw like a diamond at one point, didn't we? It was the 2 full-backs being the shuttlers. Where are we here? 2 full-backs being the shuttlers. We had like a 6 there. That was it. Like a 3 diamond 3 it was. But that would have been Kerkez and that would have been Bradley, which is a bit mad. But it would have got, I suppose, Vert in the 10 spot and that. But there's lots of different variations there. I think with Kerkez, what's interesting about it is just what he would do to the team tactically. Because for me, just generally looking at his profile versus Robertson, what we've had for the previous season, he's definitely better. But in terms of the difference, there's not a great deal. I think you can just use him exactly how you've used Robbo and you're fine. With Trent and Frimpong, absolutely not the case. Yeah, 100%. And I'm just going to put these players sort of back a little bit to sort of where they are, and because I think you're right. I think we saw at the back end of the season, I think Gravenberch drops in, and I think the centre backs are going to probably go a little bit more like that, and you might actually get a Vert or a Szoboszlai dropping in here and give you those sort of angles, especially when you consider that most teams are in that sort of 4-4-2, aren't they? In terms of the pressing, because you give yourself an extra body there, and you've give yourself triangles wherever, haven't you? You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's something that maybe Liverpool would look to sort of try and do. That's Gravenberch, that's Van Dijk, that over there is Konate. It allows Frimpong up here as well if you can get out. I think you could even do it a bit more like that if you wanted to be ultra aggressive and have the wing backs, full backs really high up, and then ask question marks over, you get the ball in here, who's going in? I think when you think of the fullbacks in relation to build up, Trent was obviously a massive cheat code. Just an answer to if you're struggling to get out your own half, Trent would just find a way. You just a long pass in the direction of Diaz or something like that. Frimpong obviously won't offer that. I don't really think Kerkez will offer that, but Kerkez will offer it to about the extent that Robertson did. I think what you want from them is, if you're building the game, they can take part in it. You don't necessarily need Frimpong to be, down there towards the corner flag.
They can creep, can't they?
Yeah, I think what I would want to happen is when Frimpong does get the ball, it's in a position where it's like that, where he's the free man, and then it's on him then to carry it, and he's the vehicle to get you to the final third. And Kerkez, be okay there?
Yeah.
Kerkez would be exactly the same, and that's one thing I do like about it. Like they're both proper like vehicles to get you where you want to be. So if you can focus on building up here, which is what slot teams do, the Zerbi very, very similar as well. And then when Kerkez finally gets the ball, when Frimpong finally gets the ball, you're off. Rather than like expecting them to engage in build up very deep down here and cute little passes around the corner. And I think they're just more athletic.
And essentially they're in the hardest positions to cover as well because they're wide.
Yeah.
They're generally in more space, gives them a good time for a first touch and driving on the football. Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's an interesting thing. I think it is something that Robertson used to do. Not so much anymore. I think you're right. Kerkez is a perfect replacement for Robbo 4 or 5 years ago, and Frimpong or Bradley can both do that position as well. Yeah. By the way, can't they? Because I imagine Frimpong's going to start, but there are going to be games where Bradley does.
We used a term recently called artificial transitions. Remember when we spoke about that? That's kind of the goal that you want to achieve nowadays with when it comes to like building from the back. The idea is like, lure them in, attract them to you, and then once you've attracted them, you build around them very quickly, and then you go. And then in that sense, it feels like a transition. It feels like a counter-attack, but it's not. And that's why it's called an artificial transition and, tactical lingo or whatever. But if you think of that kind of environment where the game is a bit stretched, there's a bit of space and you have one of these artificial transitions, Kerkez and Frimpong are ideal at bridging the gap between the bit where you attract them and the bit where you kill them. That bit in between, you need the players to... You need someone in between to kind of like bridge the gap between the attack and the build-up. Kerkez and Frimpong are ideal for that. Robertson, age 31, not so much. And even Trent, despite being the best passing right back we've ever seen, he's not so much of a carrier, is he?
No.
So as the vehicle, you never really had that option with Trent. He was never really... You wanted Trent more to engage in the build-up because of his passing, not so much as run. So I think there's been a bit of a shift there, and it's going to be interesting to see how Slot navigates that.
It is, absolutely. Obviously, we talked a little bit before about potentially losing both Tsimikas and Robertson. I suppose then we should talk about, are there any players out there? I mean, we've been talking about Joel Hatto on this show for a long time now. Probably going to be quite expensive, I'd guess.
Yeah.
Maybe... Although what are you thinking? 30, 35?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it is. The Eredivisie after all, and I don't think it should be astronomical. What was Timber? 50, 40?
Yeah, well, I was thinking Yoro probably set the market for young centre halves, didn't he?
Yeah, but Yoro's coming from League One now, a little bit more established. I was thinking more Timber because Timber came from Ajax, young defender.
I'll have a little look now. It's Urian, isn't it?
Yeah. With a J.
Yeah,
but
34 rising to 38.5 million with add-ons.
See, that's fair. That's a fair price.
That's actually, like, if you're talking maybe you can get 20 for Robertson and for Tsimikas, that might be a move that you could go, do you know what, for the extra 15 and the age of him. He's 18, isn't he? Is he 18, Hatto, 19, yeah.
He turned 19 102 days ago, yeah, so turned 19 in March. But I think the big question with Hatto is when it comes to building the squad, do you want 2 clones in every spot, or do you want something different? That's the big thing for me, because I've just been speaking there about Kerkez being a bit of a vehicle for you, Frimpong being a bit of a vehicle for you. On the right side, we have 2 vehicles.
Yeah.
Frimpong and Bradley, both sound. On the left side, if we sell Robertson and Tsimikas and we get in Kerkez and Hato, the way you play with Kerkez, let's say he gets injured before a big game and you have to introduce Hato, he will do a job for you, but he has different skills.
He does like driving with the ball though. He does like getting into the penalty area. Like
he does, and I need to watch more of him, but I've been told that he's really quick, apparently. I don't know if that's quick for a fullback or quick for a centre half. I'll have to do my own work a little bit more, but I don't think he's so much like of an overlapper, underlapper, final third threat though. Like, let's say we're attacking, and let's say, in the box there, let's say Hato's got the ball there, like that.
Yeah.
If you're an opposing player, are you worried? If that's Kerkez, I think you probably are. If it's Pete Robertson, I think you probably are. If it's Frimpong or Bradley or Trent, you probably are. If it's Hato, I don't really know. I don't know if he's that dangerous on the ball. I don't know if he's and if he's not, you're painting a picture maybe a bit more of a centre half, but he's not a centre half for Liverpool. And even if he was, he'd be behind Van Dijk. Like, I mean,
Jarell Hato touches the ball a lot in the opposition's penalty area in the Eredivisie. As an example, right now, he's top 11% for touches in the attack on penalty area versus fullbacks.
I think what's interesting about him,
and he's top 6 percentile for assists as well.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about him is he's bang on 6 foot.
Yeah.
So if you think of like his profile as a defender, he is that weird hybrid. He's basically a centre half in a back 3. That's how I would label him. Like a Lisandro Martinez in a back 3 is kind of how I think of it. So he's not quite a centre half in a back 4, but he's not quite a fullback either. So if you're that kind of profile, that's how I would profile him. If you're that, there's kind of no place for you at Liverpool unless Slot is really going to hone in on the back 3 thing and start using Frimpong as a wing back of sorts or whatever. But generally speaking, he's not. I don't think he's that great in the air. And as I said, he's not that tall. So there's a profiling thing there where big prospect and all that, but I'm not entirely sure on the profile fit for Liverpool.
The suitability of the player himself, but it does probably give you options moving forwards, doesn't it? It gives you someone who can slot in at left back. It does give you an option as somebody who could potentially grow to a position where you feel comfortable with them playing left side of the centre half in a few years' time because of his age. Yeah,
well, that's the beauty of it. Like, you would have the option of using him here at times, using him there at times when Virgil needs a break, dovetailing between the two over the course of a few years. And because he's only 19, you could basically assess which role he's best at over the course of the next few years. If he ends up not suiting either of them, you sell him probably for a profit when he's 22 anyway. So there's a pretty low risk, I think, with it. Makes relative sense as a target. You can't really lose money there, and you do cover 2 spots to a certain extent. He's left-footed, so we don't know.
You've just put the manager in an Ajax as well. Yeah,
that's a good point.
Who will now be called John Heitinga, by the way. There's no way a manager of a football team is getting called Johnny. It's John Heitinga from now on in. I bet you any money.
I know. I found out the other day, actually. I thought it was always his name was Johnny, but I found out today it's John. I was a bit gutted.
Are there any other players that sort of catch your eye when it comes to potential left backs for us?
I mean, the lad at Palace, I forgot his name. Tyreek Mitchell is available on a free, but I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Miguel Gutierrez is someone who I really like at Girona, but because he's at Girona, he's under the Man City umbrella. And do you really want to pay what it'd cost for him to come in as a support act? I'm not sure. Because it's a support act role, is the scope to get in someone who's a little bit older? For example, Andy Robertson.
Okay.
He's someone who I haven't mentioned in the agenda. You laughing at something there, by the way?
Yeah, someone just started this surprised by Steve saying he wouldn't let Robbo go, and I just put Steve, question mark, laughing back at him.
Someone thought I was Steve?
No, I think they thought I was Steve, which I totally get. I am losing my hair.
I get it.
But no, I'm very much not Steve.
Yeah, so Andy Robertson has got 3 years on his contract, so he'd still cost a bit. He's probably Fulham's best player. Is he their captain?
Don't know whether he's the captain. I know he's their best player. Well,
he's 27. Really approach. He'll be 28 in August, but he's really good, and he could do a job for you. I think if you replace Robertson and Tsimikas with Kerkez and Robinson, I mean, that's just, you're definitely upgrading there, but you're spending quite a bit more than you want to spend on one spot. 45 for Kerkez. What are you seeing for Robinson?
How old is he again? 27, 28?
He'll be 28 in August. You're chatting at
3 years left on his deal. It's probably 35, isn't it?
It's at least 35, yeah. It's got to be on it. I can't see Liverpool doing that, so...
And he wouldn't come to be a backup.
No. But this is why... But then if you did do it, you'd have the same dynamic on the opposite side, where you've got two high-flying fullbacks who would share the minutes, which I really like the idea of. But this is why I'm not sure Liverpool will sell Robbo and Tsimikas in the same summer, because to go and buy two when you've already told Kerkez you're the guy, who do you get in as the... You can't even offer the prospect of...
You just need another Kostas from 4 or 5 years ago, don't you? But someone who's happy to sit there and do it. And there ain't many of them around, to be fair.
You can't even offer the prospect of like, well, you're a project for us, because Kerkez is 21, so you can't even think like, you know, well, you'd have to share it soon. You'd probably have to get someone in like Tsimikas, who's from, you know, a relatively obscure league, can come in and just happy to be a supporter. That's why you might just keep Tsimikas, because are you going to find one of them who's better than Tsimikas? It's a long shot, really. He does a job for us every now and then.
And you don't have to pay any money for that.
Yeah, you've already got him in the building. If you really want to sell him, you could sell him next season.
With the year left on his deal.
With the year left. You took a hit for keeping him, but a lot of this comes down to replacements, and I'm not sure who we would go for there.
Okay, well, there you go. Then that's been the first show, as I mentioned. Second show in about 10 minutes' time will be on redmenplus.com. You can use the code VERTS to get a half price off your first month as a club captain if you want to come and watch that. We'll be talking Hugo Ekitike, we'll be talking Alexander Isak, and we'll be having a little look into Slot's managerial career before Liverpool Football Club to see if there's anything we can glean from that. Josh, as ever, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll catch you next week on The Deep Dive.